Welcome to episode number 288. It's a solo episode where I'm talking about the bone channel, or Ashti Vaha Srotas, the channel carrying nutrition for the bone tissue. Really interesting information from Ayurveda and how an aggravated vata dosha will affect the structure and the functioning of this bone channel. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. This episode is sponsored by Kerala Ayurveda. Have you ever wanted to uncover the ancient secrets of beauty? Kerala Ayurveda's annual Skin and Beauty Workshop is coming this June 24th to 25th, and it's open to all levels. You'll explore the definition of beauty from a holistic perspective, learning lifestyle recommendations for radiant face, hair, skin, body, and feet. Visit keralaayurveda.us/courses to sign up and use the code BEAUTYELEMENTS for $30 off. You'll find all that info in the show notes. Hey there, and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. It's me, Colette, today for a solo episode, and I'm continuing my series on the Srotas, or channels of the body. Now, if you're not familiar with the Ayurvedic wisdom on the channels of the body, then check out the first episode in this series, episode number 272, titled The Food Channel and the Srotas. And this is where I do an introduction to the channels. So that's a good place to start. In this episode, I'm discussing Ashti Vaha Srotas, which is the channel carrying nutrition for the bone tissue. The root, or mula, of Ashti Vaha Srotas is the pelvic girdle, or the hip bones, which are the central axis of our skeleton. And the second root of Ashti Vaha Srotas is the adipose tissue, or fat. Bones, or Ashti dhatu, bone tissue, are formed after and from fat tissue, which is made of dhatu. So bones get their building blocks and nutrition from fat tissue. Now check out episode number 92, titled Ayurvedic Nutrition of the Dhatus, to learn more about this process of nutrition of the tissues. And this episode will really give you a great insight into that process. The passage, or marga, of Ashti Vaha Srotas is the skeletal system, and the opening, or mukha, are the nails and hair. Therefore, when we're assessing the health of the bone tissue and Ashti Vaha Srotas, we're looking at the health of the nails, the hair, the teeth. The teeth are the upadhatu, or byproduct of bone tissue. And of course, we're assessing the bones and the joints. The subdoshas governing Ashti Vaha Srotas are prana, apana, and vyana vayu, ranjika and brajika pitta, and kledika, avalambika, and shleshika kapha. So now moving on to the signs and symptoms of aggravation of Ashti Vaha Srotas. There are some important pieces of information to understand here, and one is that bone tissue is one of the main sites of the vata dosha. Vata dosha and Ashti dhatu, which is the bone tissue, have an inverse relationship, meaning that when vata dosha is aggravated, the quality of bone tissue decreases. The aggravated vata dosha will affect the structure and the functioning of Ashti Vaha Srotas and can result in some of the following: stiff joints and cracking or popping of the joints, aching bones, weak bones, fractures or backache, problems with the teeth. As I mentioned earlier, the teeth are the byproduct of Ashti dhatu, the bone tissue. So that could be tooth pain, cavities, impacted wisdom teeth, or even having extra teeth. Disorders of the nail or the nail bed, weak or poor quality nails that are brittle, cracked, maybe have ridges or white spots, hair loss, split ends and discoloration of the hair also, osteopenia and osteoporosis, of course, which affects the bone. And FYI, I did a whole episode on the Ayurvedic view of osteopenia and osteoporosis with Dr. Sujata, and that was episode number 270. So that's another one to check out. Also, another sign of aggravation in Ashti Vaha Srotas is osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, structural spinal imbalances, slip disc, extra growth of the bone tissue, so that could be bone spurs or, like I said earlier, extra teeth, and any degenerative conditions and loss of height as well if the spine is affected. Now, the causes of aggravation of Ashti Vaha Srotas could be physical trauma, like an accident. Going beyond the body's capacity will result in overexercising and reducing the meda dhatu, the fat tissue, which again is one of the roots of Ashti Vaha Srotas. So if the fat tissue is depleted in the body, it's going to affect Ashti Vaha Srotas. However, we know that weight-bearing exercises increase bone density, and so it's important to exercise daily, but also to understand your capacity to avoid overstressing the body. So with exercise, you definitely want to be exercising on a regular basis. Any weight-bearing exercise is great, and too much or no exercise is not good. Also, another cause of aggravation could be excessive consumption of vata-aggravating foods. Of course, this will depend on your constitution. But if you have a high vata constitution or vata imbalance and you're eating a lot of vata-aggravating foods, it will definitely affect vata in the body, which in turn will affect the bones, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But some of these vata-aggravating foods could be foods that are dry, light, cold foods, excessive amounts of salt, astringent and pungent tastes. Also, menopause can be a cause of aggravation of Ashti Vaha Srotas, which is why it's really important to do bone density tests, because the estrogen level in the body declines and the agni in the Ashti dhatu, the digestive fire that's located in the bone tissue, becomes overactive to compensate, resulting in aggravation. If there's a lack of minerals in the diet, like calcium, magnesium, and zinc, the Ashti Vaha Srotas is going to be affected because the bones are a reservoir for minerals. Also, any vata emotional imbalances can affect Ashti Vaha Srotas, like loneliness, insecurity, feeling a lack of support or disconnection. So we see that a significant factor in the aggravation of Ashti Vaha Srotas is due to an imbalance of vata dosha. Therefore, individuals with a high vata constitution will be more prone to aggravation of Ashti dhatu and Ashti Vaha Srotas. Now, those with a high kapha constitution will naturally have strong Ashti dhatu and generally good Ashti Vaha Srotas, and those with a high pitta constitution have a moderate quantity of Ashti dhatu. And so they are less prone to aggravations. However, it can happen. But today I want to focus on the vata dosha, which is primarily composed of space and air elements. And in the case of an aggravation of vata dosha, it essentially means that there's too much of the space and air elements in the body. So in order to heal Ashti dhatu and Ashti Vaha Srotas, we need to reduce or balance the space and air elements and increase the earth element. So first of all, here are some examples of space and air elements in your diet. So things like popcorn and rice cakes, very light and airy. They are made up a lot of the space and air elements. So too are things like sprouts, sprouted grains, salad, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, because these vegetables contain a lot of the space and air elements. Now, this is not to say that you can never have these foods, and there are ways to balance these foods with good fats and spices, but they do contain a lot of the space and air elements, and we know in Ayurveda, like increases like. Now, the other part of that healing principle is opposites pacify. And so we need to bring in the opposite qualities to space and air. Therefore, we need lots of the earth element, which we find in the sweet taste. So this could be things like sweet fruits, grains, starchy foods, root vegetables, nuts, fish, and good quality meat. A diet rich in protein, good fats, and high in calcium as well. Calcium-rich foods, which builds up the bones. Things like sesame seeds, tahini, which is made from sesame seeds, leafy greens and beans like mung beans. A grounding lifestyle is also important, and so incorporating calming mindfulness practices like yin or restorative yoga, slow flow yoga practices, which are really pacifying for the vata dosha. Exercise increases Ashti Agni, or the digestive fire in the bone tissue, and therefore supports the formation of high-quality bone tissue. And as I said earlier, particularly weight-bearing exercise, like doing free weights or bands or Pilates, or even walking to start with, is great. Avoiding intense activities, of course, so you don't overexert yourself and cause aggravation in vata. So I would not recommend running or too much aerobic activity. Now, I want to re-emphasize that the general advice given here is to pacify vata, as the vata dosha is more prone to imbalance in Ashti Dhatu and Ashti Vaha Srotas. However, it is possible to have a kapha or a pitta imbalance in Ashti Vaha Srotas, and then the treatment would need to be different and need to be tailored to each individual. And if you would like some tailored guidance and support for you and your diet and your lifestyle, then check out my online services. I offer online consultations where I could put together a strategy for your diet, your lifestyle, your self-care, mindfulness practices to help you maintain balance and prevent illness. Of course, I will also address any current imbalances that are going on. It's a 90-minute consultation. We talk in depth about your health for about 45-60 minutes, and then the rest of the time is putting together a strategy for your diet and lifestyle and taking into account everything in your life. I also offer Digestive Reset Cleanse. I have the private cleanse available right now where you can choose your own dates. And you can check that out on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And that is on the programs page. And you'll also find my educational program, the Daily Habits for Holistic Health program, there as well, which is a self-paced 28-day educational program on how to become your own healer. If you have any questions on my online services, please book a free 15-minute online Services Enquiry Call. We can hop on Zoom and I can answer any questions you have. And so I hope you found this episode on Ashti Vaha Srotas helpful today. If you think that this episode will be helpful to others, please share it with them. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new weekly episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. It helps others find the podcast so we can spread this wisdom of Ayurveda. You can follow me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Facebook, and my new Instagram page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.